You got to care. You got to have juice. We say it all the time, Ed. You got to have juice. If you don't have juice or you don't have energy, what can you do?
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult. I don't care how skilled you are,
Yep.
So that's something we stress all the time, man. You got to show up and you got to bring the juice and you got to be ready, and it's go time, and it's not ever not go time, rarely. And we start over at zero every day.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head boys basketball coach at Texline High School, Coby Beckner. Coach Beckner has 30 years of coaching experience, 26 as head coach with an overall record of 496 wins and 214 losses. He's had many stops on his coaching journey, including a couple of years at the college level and several high schools in New Mexico, before returning to Texline High School in 2014. He's led the Tornadoes to 3 district championships, a state runner-up appearance in 2022, and 2 state championships in 2015 and 2021. Coach Beckner has been named the NMAA Coach of the Year in 2004, Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, and TABC Coach of the Year in 2021. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
There he is.
Been a while since I've done a Zoom.
Isn't that nuts that about 3 years ago we were all on these things every day and used to it, and it's getting farther and farther away. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This is a blast for me. We got a chance to connect a little bit this summer, and we also have some people that we kind of know in common. So getting to talk hoops with you for this time, it's an honor for me.
Same here. I really appreciate it. I'm excited about it. I've been following you for a while. I mean, your Jamodi podcast star. I mean, I go to basketball immersion, I go to slap and glass, and I go to Jamodi. I mean, and right now, really, it's been Jamodi just because you've had some outstanding guests on, and they're your questions really reveal a lot about who the person is and why they do what they do. And so there's a lot of that with it, along with just the basketball piece. So I really appreciate what you're doing. It's awesome for the game.
Wow. Coach, thank you so much. Just to be, I think, in the same name as those guys, those podcasts, that's incredible. And I think you're right on the money. It's the motivation behind this was, when I get to go to TABC and sit at these clinics and listen to coaches, they say good things, but we're kind of held hostage to whatever, offense, whatever zone defense, whatever they want to talk about. But there's always things like I would love to get to know about these guys even more, because it's not just what you do, but how you do what you do. That's really important. And when I thought about doing this, I asked some of my friends, what are some things that if you had a coach sitting down captive, and right in front of you, what would you want to ask and what would you want to know? And so the questions kind of came about, and it has really created some fun conversations.
Oh, I'm just like, how do you dissect and how do you pick and choose out of all the guests you have and all the information they share? It's like overload.
Yep.
Like there's so much information, and it's like you hear Dusty May speak, and it's like, gosh, he's got some stuff, man. Yeah. He's got some stuff. And it's like you just have so many of them. I mean, and I'm definitely guilty of this. What is really going to be applicable? Not only is just X's and O's, but what's going to be applicable to help me be a better leader for our team that's going to help my guys, because ultimately that's everything.
Yeah.
That's absolutely everything. So I just think it's a great tool to pick and choose and to hear so much information. So I've grown a lot. I mean, I really have. I continue to be absolutely curious, and I'm going to try my best to stay curious until the day I die. I mean, that's
nice.
Something that's
Ted Lasso, right? Isn't that what Ted Lasso said? He's like, I just don't think you're very curious.
Yeah. I mean, that's on the money. If you can create joy and stay curious, good things are probably going to happen.
Man, Coach, that was our talk right there. Thank you so much for coming on.
No.
But that's really good. And to your point, you can't do everything, and
No.
so 145 episodes or so into this thing, and with a lot more that are kind of been recorded that will come out, and then guys like you that I'm talking with now, and you can't do everything. But what hopefully comes from it is you get a better sense of really who you are as a leader and coach.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is when you hear something and as much as you love it, you realize, you know what, that doesn't fit what we're doing. That doesn't fit our direction. I think that's a good thing. Or you know who you are. And what I've done is just kind of have my little board right here, the little ideas or new basketball ideas, a to-do list, a daily reminders list. Most of it has come from these talks and like just something, but then the some guys will ask me kind of, well, who do I listen to? Well, you guys now, this is my it's not like I'm just having these talks for no reason. I'm trying to learn as much as I can from these, but to decipher, like you just can't be great at everything. No. You gotta figure out a few things that you want. And then sometimes I hear things that are just better than what I've been saying, something similar, but this is better. It's an easier way. It's catchier. It's like that PGC lingo that just sticks in your brain.
Yeah.
And then you adopt it. But man, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, no, that's on point. I mean, I just wish I knew at 30 what I know at 60. I mean, everybody says that, but I am so much better. And I'm just really thankful again that I've stayed curious and I've become even more curious as I get older and I'm willing to try stuff. And I'm really have a great job in terms of where I coach and the people I coach with and the people I coach for and the school board and the administration that I know they got my back. Yeah. I know ups and downs, peaks and valleys. I know they got my back. And I mean, that is paramount whenever you just feel freed up.
Yep.
You just feel absolutely freed up. And so that's part of it too.
Yeah. I guess a lot of coaches have to feel, what's it like to not be fearful or be fighting for your job every year? Not that we don't do our very, very best and we're always trying to improve, but there are those coaches out there that with the administration they have or the pressures they have, they can't have a bad year. They can't have a down year. That just adds another level to this, or that, like you, I'm thankfully at a place where, I mean, obviously, you have too many losing seasons. All right, I got to have a good look in the mirror. That's right. But if they're being discipled, if they're being mentored the right way, if the plan makes sense for the clientele we have, and we're competitive, I feel like I could be here a long time. And another thing you said that I want to celebrate how curious you still are, because that is impressive. But I feel like a lot of coaches are on the same path, which is when we were younger, we thought we knew everything. So we didn't invest a lot of time in the game, in learning new things, listening to older, wiser. And then most of us get our butt kicked enough to realize, golly, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know nearly as much. And then we start to, okay, I got to go to clinics. I got to start to listen. I got to go to practices. And to your point, it's like, I wish I would have done that earlier.
Right.
But, as a naive know-it-all, in my 20s, it took a few losing seasons to get there.
I think experience is everything. I mean, back then, when I first started, obviously they didn't have all the tools and resources we have now. No. I mean, if you're not picking stuff up now and you're not finding new stuff now,
you're just lazy.
You're just lazy. There's so much free material. Back in the day, like I would take my team from Glen Rose, Texas, all the way to Indiana University to take them to a Bob Knight basketball camp that he had. And they would be in the drills. And I would be like, this is how I'm going to try to learn. Or you would go to just about any clinic that there was a coach that was speaking there that was going to bring something that you thought would fit your program. But you had to travel. You couldn't zoom in and zoom out. You had to like go there, or you had to order these great big VHS tapes and cram them into a machine and sit there and take notes. That, you know, you got to pay $99.99 for. So some of it in terms of the how things can be sped up in terms of how you can learn and really, but you have to have that identity as to what's going to fit. That's the key. I mean, if you don't have that locked in identity about your program and how you want to play, how you want these kids to respond to you as a coach and vice versa, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So, you know, once you're able to set those boundaries, and some of that is just trial and error, period. It's just trial and error. And you start figuring stuff out, what fits your personality, what fits your kids. And then you mesh them together, and then you really eliminate fluff. You just wipe out as much fluff. And that's what I really liked about Tyler Costin. And the people I follow now, I really try to go into it like I want to listen to people that there's no BS and there's no fluff. Let's get right to the point of making an impact on our players, making an impact on our players in the way that they play, and making an impact on me and the way that I want to coach. Because my time for coaching is running out. I want to make sure that I am maximizing everything that I can maximize with what I know.
And the challenge, I think, for us is to all have that mentality, regardless of where we are on that scale of time. You know, you're feeling that urgency because of where you are. I'm probably halfway through. The guys that are just starting out need to have that same urgency.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a difference maker, coach. Maybe that's a difference maker between, you know, you wonder like what makes the best. Maybe a difference maker is the way that they attack every day and the way that they value every day.
I think that's huge. I think that's the first step. And I think a lot of that is mindset. And I think a lot of that is you got to really care. You got to really care about your players, about your own health, about your family, about your community, about your program, about your administration. I think care seems to be something that the longer I coach, the higher it becomes. And it's a word that encompasses a lot, but you have to care. And that's what I tell the players all the time. I don't care how I come across. Everything we're trying to do is to help you, you know, and I'm going to screw up a lot and come across the wrong way, or I'm going to get in my wrong lane and get sideways and do stuff with referees, with players that I'm going to go, I have to apologize. Because I couldn't even sleep last night because I acted like a dadgum child. So I think there's just not being afraid to fail, not being afraid to make a mistake, just being genuine and authentic, and knowing at the end of the day why you're doing this is because you care. You care about winning, you care about your players, you know, you care about your community, all of these things. You kind of have to have that mindset. And you're right, it's a difference maker. And I just applaud the young coaches who get it. Like, how do they get it so young? How do they get it at 25 or 30? Like, they're getting some of the magic. And it's just like, that's the one thing that I wish, but I was a late bloomer in every step of the way. So I'm just thankful I'm kind of getting it now, even though, like I said, I mean, I'm going to go sideways and make mistakes because I'm an emotional guy and that's just the way that I roll. But I'm good with it. You know,
the cool thing is that your players now are going to benefit from, you know, that level of care that you have. And, you know, how do some young guys get it? And I'm not saying that I had it. I'm not saying that I'm one of those. I do think sometimes it is a little bit of luck who you learn from. Like, who'd you play for? I played for Tommy Thomas. There's just one of those dudes. He's one of those guys that his heart was so big. His level of care, it trumped maybe any level of X's and O's that he didn't have. And he was actually, you know, as I get older and I get to know him more, I even learned more about how curious he was about learning from Majerus and those guys that he surrounded himself with. But to me, his greatest asset was always the level that he cared. And then, you get to play for Coach Drew for 1 year, and he's all about that.
Yeah.
Like it comes, that joy just comes out of him. So, but you know what? I found myself just not having an identity early on. And like you said, trial and error, failing a lot, having to apologize to so many players from my first few years. But then, then you find your stride. I mean, Rick Torbett said it takes you 10 years to really figure out who you are. And I don't know if that's exact, but feels about right.
I agree. And, all along, even at the beginning, and I started coaching in Texline in 1987. I mean, where I'm at now is where I started.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's like deja vu, man. It's like I cannot believe I'm in Texline, Texas, coaching basketball, and the way that it is now, as opposed to what it was however long ago, 30 years ago, whatever. But I can tell you this, and I and it's good for my own peace of mind that I cared as much then. I just cared stupid. It was just sometimes selfish and immature. And but I still cared. And and it kind of comes back because I've been in probably 5 weddings of my players. My kids have been in their weddings. Nothing's better. Nothing's better. I've had kids that played for me that came and coached with me and made sacrifices to do it. To me, that's like some validation that what I was trying to do all along, kind of comes back. So, you got to care. You got to have juice. We say it all the time, Ed. You got to have juice. If you don't have juice or you don't have energy, what can you do?
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult. I don't care how skilled you are, so that's something we stress all the time, man. You got to show up and you got to bring the juice and you got to be ready, and it's go time, and it's not ever not go time, rarely. And we start over at 0 every day. And so those are the messages that we're hitting our kids with. Those are the messages that I hit myself with, like daily. And it's a great place to be. I'm just thankful.
Coach, how many years of coaching again? Will you say that again?
If you include a couple of years I coached in college, it's up there 31, 32.
I don't care what profession you're in. You're in one for 30 plus years. That's incredible. The staying power. Yeah. That's
with I took some time off from 2005. And so I was actually out of coaching for almost a decade. I started doing some private lessons in Texline with a couple of kids, the superintendent at the time, his son, and that's what kind of got me back into coaching. But I got out for a number of reasons. My parents were dealing with some ill health and ended up losing both of them in 15 and 18. And my dad had 3 really successful insurance agencies going, and so kind of jumped into that arena. And but all in all, it's been 30 plus years of coaching, and most of it's been as a head coach at different levels. So
I would imagine, and you've talked about juice and showing up the right day. A lot of that starts with daily habits. So what daily habits set you up for success?
Daily habits, and I think this is really important, at least for me, is I get up, like I hear a lot of your guests talk about how early they get up, and I'm pretty much 4 a.m. I'm a 4 a.m. guy. I've been a 4 a.m. guy for a long, long time.
Wow.
So it's pretty much natural for me to get up at 4, and I just we have a percolator. That's how we make our coffee. My wife and I are big time. We love coffee, decaffeinated coffee, regular coffee. And so I get that going, and that smell starts permeating the house. And then I just sit down and write. Like I've been journaling now for, probably 15 years, like consistently. Wow. And so I put some thoughts on paper, and it could be anything. It could be reflection. It could be about my thoughts for the day, goals for the day. It's good for me mentally to just get some stuff out, and I just write, and I don't know where it's going to go. Some days it flows in pages, and some days it's a hassle to spit out a paragraph. It just depends on where I'm at. But I find it to be, when I don't do it, I'm maybe not quite in the same mindset. So it's that's beneficial for me. And then I spend, from like 4 to 5. I mean, that's kind of what that time is: writing, reading, uh, praying, just some quiet time, some reflection time, some to-do list time, those kind of things. And then I'll jump right into, maybe I'll check some Twitter, a little bit of social media. I try to stay off until I at least get that part, and then I'll jump right into practice. And I'll be thinking about what we did yesterday, thinking about what we need to do today. And from like 5 to 6, generally I'll spend most of that time basketball oriented, film, uh, just practice, making it out. I mean, I do junior high and high school. So I'll make out a junior high practice and I'll make out our high school practice. And they're on the same paper, but it's like half of it's junior high, half of it's our high school. And generally it'll take me, an hour, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes more than that.
Yeah.
Just depending on what all we're doing and why I want to do it. And then I turn the heater on in this little workout room I have when I get up too. So it's warm. So I go in there, and now I the last couple of years I hurt my shoulder. I have to have surgery on it. And I'm just putting it off until after the season. So I've gone more to just doing a ton of stretching. So I'll go in there from like 6 to 6:30, 6:45. Most of it now is stretching. So by that time I'm good. Like I'm generally pretty good to go. My wife has this humongous garden. We have trees, we have chickens, we have 5 acres. So I'm watering right now. Like I'm outside watering for about a 30-minute window that I have to calculate in.
When it's 107, you got to be watering. Yeah. When it's this hot.
Yeah. And it's been hot here too, even in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
man, I love hearing that. Ever since, what was it, Tim Ferriss, I got turned on to him and his book, Tools of Titans. And I just started to see this recurring pattern with successful people, is that they had really good morning routines and just things that, those patterns that they set up for themselves that, like you said, like a daily primer, like just kind of get yourself going. And I right now I'm a 5 a.m. guy, but I'm really that because, we're doing some stuff before school with open gyms. That's when the gym's available.
Right.
But there's a part of me that wants to back it up even more to get my walk in, to get a little bit more reading time in. But I'll tell you, I don't. Are you a person? You said 4 a.m. You're good. Or is it a struggle, or you've always been a morning guy?
Boom. Yeah.
I think I'm a nighttime guy trying desperately to be a morning guy, and it's difficult.
That's tough. And I've heard you talk about, with your wife, and she likes to stay up a little later. She's not getting up at 4, right? My wife doesn't get up at 4 either, but she's pretty much game to go to bed on most nights. That's not anything going on. I mean, we're going to probably be in bed between 8:30 and 9, which,
that's
the now
key.
I'm back in that to 8:30, which it used to be more 9, 9:30, 10.
Yeah.
But now I'm actually intentionally trying to get to bed like at 8:30, 8:45, by 9 o'clock. I mean, that doesn't always happen. Like there's times obviously during the season and just with life that I may not get to bed until like midnight.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm up at 4. Most of the time I'm up at 4, just because it's that important to me and my own mindset that I get up and I put that time in for myself so to make sure I'm going to be ready.
You mentioned that you coach junior high and high school. What benefits do you see in those kids getting to be around you that much?
Well, by the time they get to be a freshman, they know how I click. I mean, they know kind of what's expected. And with our program being where it's at now, what's really cool is I'm starting to have like a lot more interaction with our high school kids, with our junior high kids. Like we'll start having our 8th grade kids start lifting weights with our high school kids after school.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. Like now I keep telling our players, look, here's what you have to think. If I just walked away and didn't come back for 2 weeks, I want y'all to be doing what you're doing right now without me, helping these 8th graders, being patient with them, running practice, encouraging, high fives. Let me just evaporate and let you guys keep this going, because the best thing would be for me to disappear and be able to watch and see that you guys aren't cutting corners. You're still running the show, because ultimately, you know this as well as I do, player-led teams are so much more stronger than a coach-led team. And so we're really getting closer to that point of there's a lot more player interaction. I mean, I bounce a lot of stuff off these guys, like especially our 3 leaders this year. I mean, I'm constantly hitting them up. What do you guys think? I mean, we have absolutes. Absolutely. I mean, there's non-negotiables, but there ain't many absolutes. I don't roll with too many absolutes. There's a lot of what ifs and now what's, and where's this going to go if we make this choice, and where's it going to go if we make that choice. But in terms of your specific question, it's great, man. I mean, how good is it? I mean, my grandson's in 8th grade. I get to coach him.
That's cool.
And I mean, it's like it's just great, because I love basketball, and I've coached football. I've been a head football coach. I've done I do all these other sports in the past, but now it's pretty much, man, I'm getting to coach hoops, and we're getting to do it from the first day of school until the last day of school every day. And that's why it's like, it would be really difficult to find a job better than mine. I think as a basketball coach, and the people I work for, people like, why don't you try it? Do you ever think about going after that? Never even enters my mind. Like, no. Got too many other things going, but this is like an absolutely great situation for me. And I'm reading a book right now that's a great book. You might want to read it. It's called The Coaching Life. It's by Matt Kramer and Randy Montgomery. And it's more tailored toward younger coaches. It's full of information, but one of the quotes that's in there is the big time is wherever a coach is happy. And, it's a little bit different than the big time is what you make it, or other books that are out there. The big time is wherever a coach is happy. And that just sits home with me. And I feel like that's kind of the situation I'm in.
Yeah, well said, man. I think you're in a good spot when jobs come available and you don't even think about it. You don't even think about putting your name in. And I've had that happen here at Faith the last few years, and where just the same, what I would think is God, the same feeling God gave me leading me here, I haven't had to go anywhere else. And until he gives me that feeling again, to go that punch in the gut that just says, you have to do this. It's just right. I'll be here, and I'll just try to be faithful. And that sounds kind of like exactly where you are. Yeah,
it's a great place to be. And you got some good, I mean, I saw you guys play this summer. I was like, based on what I'd heard and how you talk and how you like to play, I was like, these guys are the real deal, man. I love the way you guys play. In fact, I got to get with you, and I got to get a little bit of that 3-2.
Yeah, we can always do a one-on-one. And I love, it's funny, from these hoops talks, I think I get to talk with guys about shooting and offense quite a bit, but the 3-2, I have had a couple of those talks, and Randall Durant, guys like him around this area that kind of came up with it. I was able to meet with him this summer and try to kind of validate, okay, I feel like I know or I understand it, but is this really what you would do? And so that was a really valuable time. So absolutely, we can do that. Appreciate you saying that about our guys. We rarely pass the eye test, but man, they work really hard. I think a good goal for us coaches is to, besides being with our family, the best part of our day is when we get to be with those guys. Yeah. Because of who they are, how they work, how coachable they are, how they buy into the culture. And this team and most of my teams here at Faith, it's like that. Like we just finished it an hour ago. It's just the best time of my day. So appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, you got some good ones. You definitely got some good ones.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. we've already dove into culture a little bit, and it is a buzzword that's around there, but it's how you show up. It's how you do things. How do you feel like culture drives performance?
Well, I love the question. To me, culture is like love. It's action based, not word based. Not. I hear you talk a lot about putting words on a T-shirt. And, I'm like you. I'm for all that. If it kind of reps out what our culture is, but I don't care how many words you put up or what you pump out on T-shirts. It's action, and it's like I was talking to our guys at the beginning of this year, talking about what is our culture, and I wrote like what our record has been like the last 5 years, and it's a really good record. And I said that right there is culture. That right there is culture. That's right. And how does this happen? How does this happen? How do we create this? It's action. What kind of action are we talking about? It's about being a great teammate. I mean, it's all about being selfless, and it's all about caring. And these things, you can talk about them, but you have to live them, and you have to model them, and you have to demand it in terms of just how you carry yourself, which again goes back to why I get up. Part of the reason I get up at 4 a.m. Because if I'm showing up flat, I'm showing up with no juice. What a joke.
Yeah.
What a joke. I mean, it's like these are the foundational elements of a successful life, which we know it's way more important that these kids are picking up these things. We have hoop as a platform. We have the game as a platform. So with that comes great responsibility. And so we're constantly trying to do things that we use the game for, that's helping these young men become young men, and understanding what their role is going to be as they go from being 16 to 26 to 36 to 46. And so all of that is part of what our culture is. But I would say at the our slogan is run as one. So run as one encompasses, umbrellas, everything. It really does. Run as one can mean a lot. And basically right underneath run as one is be a great teammate. Just be a great teammate. Be on time, be encouraging. And obviously that's not going to happen every day. We got kids going sideways. Had a kid go sideways yesterday in practice. Hey man, they're 16 years old. That's why we're there, is to help them. But we're pushing them to the point of it can easily go sideways, because it's very competitive and they're being challenged. And it's okay if they go sideways, as long as they're aware of that they're going sideways or that they're making a mistake. And then we try to teach them to how can we get them to self-correct?
Yeah.
Because if we can get them to self-correct, then that's huge for them as they get older. But the culture is the winning, it's the feeling, it's the community, it's the run as one, all of those things. And it all helps practice on a Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? In August. It helps practice on a Monday, on April the 18th, after the season.
Yeah.
That's where it helps. It's easier to practice in November. And it's easier to practice with juice in late February. But I believe you have to have some of that same intensity and that focus in August and in May. Otherwise, you're probably going to underachieve. And so that's what I tell coaches all the time. Where your team is at now is irrelevant. Get them to overachieve. Just get them to overachieve. And if you're 28-6, awesome. If you're 6-28 and you got them to overachieve, you're going to be at peace. You're going to know that you've done everything you can do to help those kids overachieve. And so that's something else we talk a lot about. Let's just try to overachieve. And, wins will come. But here's the thing. Storms are coming, like they're always coming. And so adversity is a big part of culture.
Yeah. It's
a big part of dealing with adversity, is a big part of what our culture is. And so that's a big part. Right now, that's a high priority for us, is how we're going to deal with adversity. And so that's something we talk about a lot.
Man, no, a lot of to unpack there. I do want to say I'm glad you brought up the T-shirt thing, and I hope that it's never come across as I'm anti-T-shirt,
No.
anti-poster, because you know what? Like I use our words and actually what every year I ask our seniors, what's a phrase that you would like on the back of a T-shirt? I don't really care what it is. I mean, obviously I okay it can't have anything, but whatever. What one that I saw, because we have now years of seniors choosing different slogans, and a little bit has to do with that player. Like it says a little bit about them, what they choose to, but it could be embrace the process. Like one of our seniors chose that to be on the back of a shirt. And I loved it because that's exactly who that kid is. He's process based. But my biggest thing with shirts is I just want our guys to have a lot of gear. I want them to have a lot of shirts that they can wear that has Faith basketball. Yes. I don't really care what's on the back because to your point, if you think that culture is the T-shirt, hey guys, you got your culture T-shirts, right? Did you see the poster on the wall? Like if you think that that's it, then man, you're missing a large part of it. And I think you really nailed it with the other part of your statement of it's not just in November. Like we're not waiting till November. In fact, if you're right, if we're waiting till November to set standards, to hold them to standards, then we're skipping steps. If you're truly process-based, then you know that this August Wednesday practice is just as important as the practice before a district game. Because if we take off on this day, fellas, if we don't maximize this day, then when we get there, we're going to be wanting. We're not going to have enough. And so, on the money, man, what you're saying.
Yeah, and I just want to add, and plus, it's a lesson for life. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to show up even when you don't. And one of the big things we talk about is standards over feelings. I mean, and it's easier said than done. But there's standards and then there's feelings. All right. And your standards, your feelings have to get up there. Like, mm-hmm. I know those kids are coming in there with stuff every day. I know whether it be a fight, issue, a bad test, or just flatline, didn't sleep good, whatever they're bringing into the gym. Okay. We're not going to use it as an excuse today. Not today. You've got to be ready to go today. And if you're not ready to go today, then go home. Like go home and rest so you'll be ready to go tomorrow. And that's not very often that has to get to that point.
Yeah.
But it's a fine line, Coach. You know as well, it's a fine line because we're asking a lot, but we also understand these kids are dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
So it's always, everything we do, I say it a lot, is a fine line. It's really a fine line because we live on that line. I live on that line. I live right there on that edge. Like you have to have an edge. You've got to be selfless. Like I'm always just hoping that I can be selfless in how I go about my business. And then at the same time, have an edge about me. And so we talk, and again, it comes back to the value of choices. And so all of these things are really bigger than the game. Yeah, but that's what's great about the game.
That's right. Phil Jackson said it. There's more to life than basketball, but there's more to basketball than basketball.
Exactly.
And that is what I love getting to talk to coaches about. I think you're right about that line. And I think kind of that next level gold standard for us. I think like what do the best of the best have? They have a standard that players have to know that there are consequences if they break it. But then I also feel like the best of the best they have their eyes open and they're willing to investigate the why behind a standard is being broken. Because you could just be black and white. Yeah. This is our standard. You broke it. You're done. Go whatever. And there are, like you said, there are times for that, especially if you know the why behind it. If it's not a good reason of why, like, your girlfriend said something mean to you, hey, life's harder than that. Like we have standards. Man, something happened in their family, loss of a family member, a player that is normally high intensity is drooping. Like find out the why because
Yeah.
I do think within that on that line though, there is some gray, and we because that happens in real life. And I
Yeah.
think the lack of relationship, or the lack, and you mentioned at the very beginning, the lack of care, that's sometimes where I feel like we can hurt our culture. Culture is standards, and it is things that we all have to live up to every day. But
Yeah.
when we fail, I think part of that can help is knowing the why and having our eyes open to that.
Let me just say this, Coach, because I'm with you all the way. Being a 1A coach, as opposed to being a 5A or 6A, and I was there. I was at Westfield in Houston. I was at a school that had 4,500 kids in their high school. And then I come back and I coached at Clayton, but I got to Texline now, and it's a 1A school. There's only so many kids out there.
Yeah.
Like, you are almost forced, if you want to win, to figure out, okay, why is Johnny flatlined today? Okay, I'm really pissed that he's flatlined today. He's a key player, but he's like got this attitude today. Get him out of here. I mean, that's not going to work if you keep doing it 2 or 3 days in a row. Instead of, I have to call Johnny in and say, what's up? I have to get to the root of the problem. Houston competition would flush it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't have to deal with a lot of that because competition would flush it out. This level, you better put your investigative hat on, and you better go deep diving and finding out what's ticking with this kid, what's going on here, which has really made me a better coach.
And that's what I was going to say. I would encourage coaches to take that approach anyway. Like we should all be coaching like we're 1A coaches, because at McKinney High School, you're right on the money. We had dudes walking around the hallway that didn't play that could probably start at a lot of schools.
Yeah.
But they weren't either allowed to be on the team for whatever, or they didn't make it because we had so many bodies. You have 1,000, 2,000 boys, Coach, you can find 5 that can hoop.
Yeah.
But once you've made the distinction of who is a part of our tribe and who's not, then let's have the approach of a 1A coach there, instead of just next man up mentality, which I'm not talking like in-game moments and things like that.
Right.
But culture-wise, day-to-day habits, I think you're right on the money with your approach.
Well, I appreciate it. It's helped me grow for sure.
Coach, you've had quite a bit of success there. 2021 state champs, 2022 state runner-up. What's something that makes your program different?
A lot of things, but I guess if I had to narrow it down, it'd have to be our school board, stability, no drama.
Yeah.
Let the teachers teach and the coaches coach. An outstanding administration, outstanding.
Wow.
So you have people who know what they're doing and why they're doing it at the top. And so I think that separates us. I really do. I think that separates us because of our leadership from the top down. And that's why, like I was saying earlier, I mean, it would have to take something really like, Jeff Evans gets the head Division II job at wherever, and he says, Coby, let's go, man. What are you waiting on?
That'd be hard to say no to right there. That'd be hard to say no.
I'm going to have to flirt with that. But the point is that what separates us here is that there's secure people. There are secure people that are doing it for the right reasons, and it's all 100% about the kids, 100% about the kids. So we've all been in school systems where there's drama. The school board comes in and they have an agenda, and everything gets sent crazy. Or you get a new administrator and they got a big ego and they're going to tell everybody how they're going to run the show. And I know where we're at. I know where our administrators are at. I know where our school board's at. And for me at this point in my life, I don't like a lot of fluff. I don't like any drama that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Let's just get to the point of why we're doing what we're doing and stay there forever. Just stay there. And that's one thing about Texline that not only myself, very little turnover, Coach. Very little turnover. Who you saw last year, you saw them 2 years ago, you saw them 3 years ago. There's 40-some souls in there pretty much marching to the same beat that we're all kind of running as one. Like it's almost like we're caught in 1987. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like
that's a good place. Yeah.
Like it's a time warp.
Yeah.
Like some of this chaos is not is not really infiltrating our camp. We
Hmm.
still have a Halloween carnival deal that, I mean, it's something that you could have saw in the movie Hoosiers, with inside of a little gym and inside the school, they got all these booths, and, kids and their parents are going around and throwing apples or apple pies at the principal or whatever. It's just a cool place to be. And I'm thankful I have, one of our grandsons is going to school there, because it would be hard to beat that. And so I think that's probably the key thing that separates us. That in terms of the leadership point, and then I think kind of how we play, the style that we play. I think that helps us as well. It separates us a little bit.
And I want to get into that in a little bit. But I
Yeah,
think one thing you said is unique. I haven't heard that about the leadership, the school board. I've never heard that answer, or I have heard that question answered that way. I wonder how many coaches, when they're putting their names in the hat for jobs, investigate to that level. Like, I think, you find out, hey, how much talent do they have coming back?
yeah.
Like, how are the players, but you go that next, because if you're really going to a place to think, okay, is this job the one I could stay at for a long time? You got to investigate things like that, right?
I think so. I mean, I wouldn't have 20 years ago. I'm
Yeah.
just now being in schools where there was a lot of drama, where there was instability or maybe lack of leadership. It drains you.
Yeah.
Like, it takes energy away. Like, it's like we don't need that. Like, you don't need to have energy dispersed to places where it doesn't need to go. You need all your energy going boom where it needs to go.
Hmm.
And that's true as teachers, whatever job you're doing, whatever that may be. I think you have to have that kind of support, and that kind of confidence
Yeah.
and stability. And yeah, it's not something that most of the time coaches are going to look into. But I can tell you this: if you want to be 100% yourself, you need people that are going to back you, and they got to trust you. And that's hard to create that in a short period of time, whether it be an interview process or whatever. I mean, you're assessing them, they're assessing you. You want the job because you feel like you got a good chance to win or whatever it is that you like about the job. But probably rarely do you really go into a deep dive about what's the stability, the leadership character of the administration, and what about the school board? How much turnover is there, and is there somebody in there rattling their chains, chasing an agenda that could be really, you could be doing a lot of things right, coach, and you could find out you got fired.
Yeah.
Like, what? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It
Yeah.
can happen, and it could be just something as simple as one of the school board members' kid didn't get to play, and they have a loud voice and they dominate the meeting. So I think those things factor in. They factor in with me, and again, I think that's a humongous part about what makes Texline a good place to work.
And I don't think it's bad for coaches to have higher aspirations. I mean, just in the same way that our players do. We'd love for our players to, if they're freshmen, to want to make JV, to want to make varsity. I love when guys want to play after college, and you see coaches at every level that where they're at right there, it's not their final place. They want to keep moving. Nothing
Sure.
wrong with that. But what you're
No.
talking about too is a great, I think, a good reason to make the big time where you are.
Yeah.
Because the place that you're wanting to get to, I mean, I don't want to use his name, but I was talking to a legendary coach in this part of Texas. We were playing each other. He was at a new place, but he had been at another school for years, 20, 30 years. And he even let me know, he's like, I was ready for a change, maybe something bigger. I thought this was going to be a really unique. After a year or two, I've realized, like, why? Like, why did I leave? What did I do? And he's like, I would like to go back. I mean, I don't know. Personally, if anything does ever change here, I don't want to have that regret when I get to a new place or realize that, man, faith really was the big time. I think in that whole idea of watering your grass, right, to where you're at. The grass isn't greener, water your own. But just good reminders, I think, from you.
Well, I just want to say this, Coach. Every place I went to this day, I'm grateful I was there. Whether it was a good experience or maybe not as good as an experience, relationships are there. They'll always be there. There's relationships from every stop along the way. And I've moved my kids and 3 dogs and 7 cats and a rabbit more than once. Like long space, like long miles, like from Farmington, New Mexico to Houston, from Houston to Clayton, like wanting to find the place. But while I was at the place, it was like, let's go, like
Yeah.
the same, like not necessarily trying to get. Now, I did want to get to the highest level of high school. I really did. And then it was like, I really loved it in Houston, but it was really, my wife's from Nebraska. And so the pace of life in Houston, Texas, compared to Baird, Nebraska, or even Clayton, New Mexico, like it's really difficult to adapt to that. She's going that way. I'm going that way. Our kids are over here. If something happens to our kids, all right, who's going to go and
Wow.
take
Yeah.
care of them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm with you on the, coach, and you have aspirations. You want to improve and try to climb the ladder. I'm certainly not, saying that that's not a positive as well, for sure.
Yeah.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
I do love getting to talk about style of play. I love the way we play, but I also really enjoy getting to learn about other coaches' style of play, things that they love, and to hear the passion for what they believe. Because one coach I was talking to, not one coach, Joe Lombard, that I was talking some coach I was talking to. 1,400 wins, whatever, 1950. But he just kept making the comment, there's so many different ways that you can win, like so many different ways that you can play. So I think that's really important for me as somebody that is sold out to their style, not to continue to learn of how other people play. What's your favorite style of play to teach?
Like you.
Now it is fun when they're
Yeah. I mean, when I was in Houston, we were number one in the city in Houston in scoring. I mean, we ran Kenny Hoffpower. You heard of Kenny Hoffpower?
I read and rotate and squeeze and all. Yeah, his pressing system. Oh yeah.
So he came in after I left Glen Rose.
Yeah, because he was Coach Garnett. He was Matt Garnett's coach there.
He came in behind me.
Yep.
Okay. And when he came in that spring, me and him spent a lot of time together. And he taught me that whole press.
Yep.
90. Like, so I took it and went to Farmington, to Kirtland Central. We had a lot of success. Then I went to Houston and ran it. So that's whenever I really started jump starting and wanting to play faster and understanding pressing better. And so we started running that and learned a lot from it. Sometimes we'll even go back to it. Even at Texline, I've jumped back into a little bit of 90 here and there. But I learned a lot from him, and I guess that's how I like to play. I like to be. If you had to sum up what we do, it would be we play with pace, and we are trying to be disruptive on defense. If you want to get just to the simplicity of using a few words, like Costin was really good at, I think it was Tabor, the coach at Crum. He had like some really cool words that he was using. Yeah. I love that stuff. Like, that's kind of us. I mean, we're going to play with some pace now, and we're going to try to be disruptive on defense. And I think where I probably failed is sometimes the big games. The big games, like the state championship game we lost to Grayford, probably got a little conservative. And the size of the gym floor, bigger. I mean, it's not just the arena, but the floor.
More space favors the offense, no doubt.
Yeah, and so I get conservative, and even last year when we got beat by Navs in the regional quarterfinals. I mean, that's one of the more painful losses that I've had. It's on me, man. I probably got a little bit conservative, and and some of it was just shots didn't go early, and we couldn't really set our press.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like to, like right now in practice. Yesterday we did a 4-on-3 to 4-on-4 cutthroat drill. So it's a 4-on-3 to 4-on-4 where we have this continuous advantage on both ends going with 12 players. Love it. We
Yeah.
do this Arkansas 3-team transition that I got from Mike Neighbors. Do it almost twice a week right now. So we're doing a lot of that transition with advantages, creating advantages, and then we are shooting a ton and getting these kids to understand reads,
Yeah.
how to make reads, see a gap, drive it. I mean, you got space, you got that bubble, you got to be ready to shoot it. It's the same thing, man. It's 0.5 stuff. And
Coach,
I love
yeah, I love what you said about like teaching them reads, getting shots up, and also getting them to play in those situations. I believe this is the time for that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I'm all for skill work. I mean, I like the idea that everything we do is skill work, all of it. That's what Doug Novak said, and I agree with that. But I think this is the time to teach them how to, I love the 0.5, how to play with that type of quick decision making, because the failure, I think if you wait until the season starts, you and I both know it takes time to become instinctive in that. Because when we tell players you're thinking too much, one, I don't really care for that. I don't like to stop thinking, just play. What does that even mean? Coach, how do I not think? We don't want that. We want their thinking to be faster. We want their decision making to be instinctive. That starts now, so that when our season begins and we can start to put continuities and more concepts on, man, they have a really good base for it. So I think you're right on the money.
Yeah. Playing fast is not as easy as people think it is. They think it's just melee and, it's junk, or it's like pickup. And it's like, man, you want to play fast? You think you want to play fast? Well, let's see if you really want to play fast. I mean, it's not like crazy fast. It's not like Westhead stuff, or some of the stuff you've even dabbled into a little bit.
Yeah, it's sustainable though. I think there is a speed out there that is sustainable, and you have to find that right speed for your clientele.
Right.
Because you can try some things like I have that don't fit the horses you have. There's going to be frustration on either side.
Right. Right. No, it comes back to, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. Our shot selection sometimes, fine line. I get criticized for sometimes us not we take some crazy shots, like the kid who hit the 3 for the state championship win. Yo-yoed it back. You just don't see it at the 1A level. But he did that against Naz in the third quarter when we're up 12. And I'm like, Will, why in the hell are you taking that shot? It's like, Coach, I thought I could make it. I'm like, I'm with you now.
Yeah,
and, but the point is to play this way, you have to play this way. Like, you have to practice this way. Like, we're doing it with 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders in our junior high period. We're running Arkansas 3-team transition early. Like, it'll make your eyes bleed. Or, you know what I'm saying? It's not always pretty. But then all of a sudden, you start seeing some things. And as they're playing games, they're developing skills and they're starting to figure stuff out. And you can just let them play and keep saying, figure it out. Although sometimes you have to stop and say, look, right here, man, if you would have just caught it and drove it, you were going to be right in that gap where you could have kicked it. But like we're throwing like one-handed passes, and we're doing stuff that people are like, why are you letting your players throw one-handed passes? And I'm like, this is 2023.
Yeah.
Like, they have to have the ball away from the defense.
That's right.
I mean, we're not just holy gully, but it's fun. I love it. The players love it. It's competitive every day. It's developing toughness every day. It's valuing and highlighting the kind of choices they're making every day. And guess what? All of those things transfer right to life.
Mm. Yeah. You have a good system when players are improving in it. Like, just take a step back and ask yourself, are my players individually getting better, from the style of play that we have? Not just one or two of them, not just your best players, but, across the board. Yeah. I love the idea of you having some of those same concepts going down to junior high, because I never think it's too early to start having them play and learn. Brian and golly, there's so many good things, Coach, that you said, but I wonder how many coaches. So I like the games approach, teaching from a game, because what happens there, I would imagine from Arkansas 3, the transition game, is that you learn from watching them where their biggest deficiencies lie, instead of breakdown, all good stuff, all stuff they need to know. What if they already know that? Like, what if they're already good at some of those things and you're not, and that's not necessarily wasting time, but they could be doing other things.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like we'll rep out some stuff where it's block, like shooting, and even some jump stops and some stuff they have to, and more with the younger. But at the same time, we're gonna probably work our way through those things and hit them pretty hard and demand that they do these certain things. They have to be able to jump stop. They have to be shot ready. They have to understand how to bunny hop into a shot. That's rep, part of our warm up. Then we're gonna throw them into some small-sided games. We're going to jump right into some kind of a 4-on-3, some kind of an advantage, some kind of where they're making reads, more controlled with younger, less controlled with older. But at the same time, we're probably going to keep score, and there's probably going to be a winner and a loser, because that brings edge. That's going to bring some edge to the table, which is, you got to have it. And so we're just continuously, and it's like I was telling our girls coach, and our girls coach played for me his senior year when I at Texline. Dawson Nicholson, he's like my young mentor. He's like my reverse mentor. I mean, he's great, but we talk all the time. And it's like, you got to have these kids doing this stuff. You got to have them rep this stuff out. I mean, you've got to layer this stuff. And what we're trying to do is get our kids' skill level to such a high point that it's like a layer of armor, that when you throw in the toughness and the competitive spirit and being a great teammate. And it seemed like there was something else that I said to him yesterday that was all part of that. You're probably going to have a lot of success if you can develop that skill set. And at the 1A level, I understand 1A level is different than 5A, 6A, even than your level.
But it's all relative. I mean,
it is.
Yeah,
it is. You can maybe take a few more chances. You can jump on a kid or two and triangle and tool, and take their best player out, maybe a little bit easier at this level, or force them to their weak hand. But at the same time, I mean, just the reps that they're getting and the decisions that they're having to make, and the conditioning that they're getting. I mean, I used to be like, I played for coaches in college and high school, man. It's like after you get through practicing, we're running 12 suicides today. Like, and you got to make each one under 35 seconds. So it's like you're holding out all day. Like, I'm sitting there with butterflies in my stomach at fifth period. I know I got to run 12 suicides after a 3-hour practice. It's amazing that we all did it back then. Now it's like we're getting the majority of our conditioning in what we're doing and how we're playing. And like I said, it's not like I'm having to show up every day breathing fire.
Right.
Like I'm going to carry a whip into the gym. Like, guys, we're going to learn man-to-man defense today, and you're going to get your butts down and, man, guard the ball and deny the wing. And it's like, used to do some of that stuff, man. I just have found this way to be the best way to play that fits me and fits our kids.
To your point about maybe pulling back at times, I think any style that you choose as a coach, there's going to be a time where you're tested in that style, where there's this idea that, okay, if we broke away from this and did something different, man, maybe that could help us or not. And it always makes me think back to when Coach Watson and I at McKinney wanted to start running and gunning. But neither of us had really ever done it before. I wanted to do the 4-out-1 and dribble drive that Calipari was making big. He wanted to do Hoffpower's pressing system. And so first game, I think we're at Plano, and it's not going well, Coach. Like, they're scoring on us easily. Dribble drive looks a little bit rough. Yeah. And I can remember Coach Watson looking down at me going, should we get out of this? Like, do we get out? And I there's a part of me that thought, like, heck yeah. I mean, I'm not the head coach, but like, this is your job. I think. But then for whatever reason, it was a lucky moment, I think, of just thinking, no, like, stay with it, like, stay the course. It's percentages. Like we just keep grinding, keep going, and give it time, and it'll work. And it's kind of like what he says in Remember the Titans about his 6 plays that he runs. Just give it time. It's like Novocaine is all. It's give it time. It always works.
Yeah.
And we did. We stuck with it. But then later on that the next year we're playing sock in the playoffs, and they're better at what we do than we are. So do we do something different? No, we just stay the course. So I think there is that point where whatever you do choose, that moment is going to come when you're going to be tested to abandon what you've been doing. You've been talking this whole time about building a culture and a toughness in your players. I think that toughness has to come from us and our resolve that we have when we want to maybe abandon that style of play.
Yeah, those are good points, man. Those are absolutely great points. And, again, there's very few absolutes, and you have to be flexible, and you have to have being able to look at an opponent and make some subtle adjustments. Where I think that probably, and here's something that's going on right now at Texline. We just built a brand new parking lot. We put a brand new gym floor on our main court, and we're right now in the process of building a brand new practice gym. We're building our brand new practice gym 90 feet by 50 feet, not 84 by 50 feet. We're building it so that we can practice on it when we start heading into the playoffs, and we're going to be at South Plains, and hopefully, knock on wood, and we have a little bit of luck, we stay healthy, we can get back to San Antonio. My point is, when you get on that bigger court, the angles, defensively especially, are different, and you have to come from different angles to do the traffic. And at the same time, I mean, bottom line, you got to score. You have to get some points on the board so you can kind of set.
Yeah.
And, whenever we got Rayford beat us, and a lot of it, Coach Bell, I mean, he's absolutely outstanding defensive coach.
He's good.
Yeah. And Naz, same thing. I mean, they had a lot of seniors, and Taylor is an outstanding coach, and Naz has got such deep tradition. But so you just keep learning. And, like this year's team is different than last year's team. We're way longer. We're skinnier. We're going to do some things a little bit differently. We're going to play more zone. We're going to change up our defenses even more. But I'm super excited about it because it just poses us new challenges and new opportunities.
And I'm all for adjustments. And I think the beauty is when you are basing what you're doing more on concepts, you can adjust concepts all day long. Straight up different continuities, or because even between man and zone, many of your concepts can be the same. Like just because we run a 3-2 doesn't mean we're not talking man-to-man concepts throughout. Right. So I think that's it. Like going back to the very beginning of our talk of knowing who you are as a coach and spending that time learning and pulling all these things is like, you gotta figure out what concepts do I like to teach? What am I comfortable teaching? What concepts will work well for my players that also allow me the flexibility to like again, in the 3-2, we can pull back in if we're playing a bigger team. We can stretch out if we feel like their guard play is a little bit weak. We can go up into almost a diamond press and then drop our middleman back. So I do agree with you. Like changing things up, making those adjustments, huge. Knowing those concepts, though, I think really important.
Yeah, I loved how you ran that zone. I mean, I sat there and I was like, "What the heck is this?" I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm like,
"That's how I felt." That's how I felt. When I got the film on it, because I talked to one of the assistants at Birdville at church, I asked him how his day, and coach, I was a floundering man-to-man coach. I'd always run it. We had pressed a little bit when I first got to Faith, and then went more man. We were pack line. I realized when we run pack line, we can't score. Like we were scoring 40, 50 points a game. That's not our style. But the defensive side I felt like slowing us down a little bit. And so I just frustrated with that. And I talked to this guy. He's like, "Yeah, we're 7-2, man. This zone we're doing is just really good." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like a zone. Like, come on. I don't even want to hear about it." He said, "No, you should look at it." And I'm watching film on it, and I'm like, I don't know what the rules are. Like, I don't understand. Like, why is he over there now? Like, what are they trying to do? And And it does. It morphs and moves. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I just believe in this, and I believed in this for a long time now since I've been at Texline. We're going to try to do everything we can to not let you do what you want to do. And so playing man-to-man plays right into Jayton, plays right into Naz, plays right into Grayford. They all run shuffle motion. They all run circle motion. They shuffle cuts. They're like Indiana Hoosiers. They will move the ball and they will beat you. They will go side to side 8 times if they have to. And then they'll hit a guy cutting. Eventually, he's going to be wide open. They're disciplined. They're excellent man-to-man teams. It's like playing Virginia. I mean, so it's like, okay, what can we do to counter that? What can we do to take our kids that we have and let's try to and that's really where a lot of where we just keep evolving, because here's what I have on the board, Coach. And I think I don't remember if it was somebody you had on your podcast, but his goal going in was, how do we win our last game? What are we going to do to win our last game? Period. And so it's up there. What do we have to do to win our last game? And so a lot of what we're doing is that's factoring into it. You know, I remind them about it almost daily. And that helps with us in terms of how we're trying to play, which there's nothing that's ever going to get like way crazy. We're not going from black to white, ever. From one extreme to the other, never. It's always somewhere in there where you said it, concepts, offensive concepts, defensive concepts, absolutes. You got to jump to the ball on defense. I don't care what you're running.
Yep.
When
the
ball
behind.
moves, you better be moving. And so those concepts are always going to be hit on and we're going to be worked on. And so, but from that, we can do a lot of different stuff out of it, defensively and offensively.
Just from talking to you, I feel like you'd be a fun person to play for, to be around, and I would imagine the relationships you have with your players are really strong. Confidence is one of those things. It really is important. It's important for us to be conscious of the level of confidence players have, when it's high, when it's low. What do you do to help build or influence confidence in your players?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I wish I had the answer. I don't know that there is a definite answer. I think we can't get in those kids' heads. But what I'll say that we try to do is game reps. I think the more we put them into game rep situations, the more they understand the importance of practicing with game rep mentality on their own with the team, probably the more confident they're going to get. Now, that's a little harder than going and spending an hour at the gym, 10 minutes shooting around, 5 minutes listening to or checking Twitter or Facebook, another 8 minutes over here, throwing the ball off the wall, whatever. Like 15 minutes, like focused reps, game reps, coming off screens, full speed, jump stop, boom, shot fake, blow by. Game reps are, to me, the answer to having more confidence. Is that an absolute? No, it's not. But I think it's what can help build those layers of confidence. And then some of it is we have to call them in sometimes and go, hey, man, what is happening? You look like a different player right now. And then you find out, holy smokes, I didn't know that was going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now I got to come at a different angle. I can't come hardcore. It's not like I got to back off and okay. Now, but there's a lot of psychology, as well as I do, Coach. Yeah. Like a ton of what we're doing is psychology stuff and trying to stay ahead of it. But a lot of it is just observing and being aware, talking to the kids. Sometimes you got to pull them in and you got to say, look, be real. Let's be real right now. There ain't nobody else in here, me and you. What's happening? I am here to help. Sometimes it's like way, way, way more important than basketball, and so let's just digest this. Let's understand this is here and we have to deal with this. And at the same time, you're a big part of this team. We're getting ready to go in the playoffs. Like there's a lot of people counting on you.
Yeah.
So let's figure out what we can do to constructively get through it. And again, this comes back to that concept of, look, storms are brewing. Like there's a big storm out there. They're always coming. You think it's good? We won state. The next day, everybody's like, God, Coach, man, what? That's unbelievable how you guys won, man. You are awesome. And da-da-da. I said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to have to kick Will Luther out of practice tomorrow. I'm probably going to have to jump all over this or whoever the kid is. I mean, Will's playing at Wayland. He's like one of my own kids. Guess what happened, Dad? The point is, winning state doesn't fix your problems. It doesn't. What it does is it validates what you're trying to do, and it helps give these kids some memories of a lifetime. And really, that's what it's about. You're trying to give these kids memories of a lifetime and lessons and a passion, not only for the game, but a passion for life. And winning just gives your platform bigger and their ears get bigger. That's the value of it, man. Their ears all of a sudden like, oh, I thought coach was crazy. Well, heck, one state, we might have to listen to him a little bit. I just think that
a little bit of credibility there. A little
helps,
bit, yeah.
You know, that helps. And so with that, again, comes that responsibility. Okay, now what are you going to do with it? How are you going to help this kid? You know, we had a kid quit last year, and it was the most painful thing that I've had happen in a long time. It was really difficult because it was a kid that just was a kid that was, you know, came from a challenging situation at home. I love the kid. He loved the game. And it just one of those situations, coach, where you're going to lose your team or keep the kid, or you're going to lose the kid and keep your team. I mean, it's like, you know, and so, but that kept me awake a lot, like a lot more than worried about a playoff game. And it still does to this day. But you just can't save everybody, you know, and that was tough. But
thank you for sharing that message right there. I don't think it's one that, you know, people talk about a lot. You know, the real difficult things in coaching is when you feel like it's better for the group as much as you want to help that one.
It's tough.
You know, it is hard.
Yeah, it's tough. And this kid was a leading 3-point shooter in the state the year before.
Wow.
This was a kid who could play.
It wasn't 12, 13 on the bench where you're like, nah.
Right. Even though
it's not going to hurt us. It's not going to hurt us. But
right. But still, I mean, you know, because now, but I will say this, at graduation, what was really cool, they give out roses. And he came up, and I hadn't said a lot to him since, although I was really happy that he stayed in school and graduated. He just came up and gave me a rose. And he gave me the biggest hug.
Wow.
The biggest hug. And he just said, "I'm sorry, coach."
Wow.
I said, "Well, do you have any regrets in life?" He said, "Oh, man, do I ever." I tried to tell you that you would. But that's just part of what we go through as coaches.
Yeah.
You know, it's just part of it. So anyway.
Phil Jackson quote again, right there.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Coach, before the speed round, I got one more question for you. And I would love to ask you this one because what a unique journey you've had starting at Texline, going to different places, businesses, and then coming back. I just think that's really unique. What would you do differently if you could start over in coaching?
What would I do differently if I could start over? I would try to get to where I'm at now a lot faster. But you can't do that, and there is no rewind button, and I get it. Every stop along the way, there was lessons learned and relationships and meaningful relationships. It would be hard for me to say that I'd change anything, because if I went back and did tinker with it, changed it, I wouldn't be me. This is who I am, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there was some ugly. I mean, there definitely was. But if I had to say something to young coaches that could help their learning curve speed up, it would be stay curious, man. Stay curious and go all in. Go all in with your kids. Whatever you got to have the courage. You got to demand the courage from the kids. Help these kids be courageous. Help them to believe in themselves. Help them to be bold. The climate they're growing up in now, holy smokes, is way different. All the social media, all the craziness that's gone on with COVID and masking and all that stuff. These kids have been through a lot. Not that that's an out or an excuse, but that's what I would encourage young coaches. But in terms of me wanting to go back and change anything, I could go back and pick that apart for eternity. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking?
Last week, I would definitely not.
But those things like had to happen. to get me to where I'm at now. And now, I mean, again, I'm chasing balance. I'm chasing just keep trying to get better and to have an impact, have a positive impact, whether it be in the school, in the community, and my family. Wear a lot of different hats. And I honestly, here's what I would say, Coach. Here's what I would say. I would have been a lot better if I could change one thing. I would have done a lot better at expressing gratitude. That's what I'd have done. I would have been a lot more open about thanking people who helped me, being more freely, more courageous to be filled with gratitude and express that gratitude. And that's, I tell these kids, you have to be aware, number one, that you're getting it. And number two, you have to be able to say it. You have to be able to say, hey, thank you. I just think gratitude really is a big part of being humble. And those are things that I needed. I needed those when I was younger. So that would be it. That's nothing, is it?
Coach,
like massive changes,
Well, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. But I always think when I'm asking these, well, how would I answer these? Some more easier than others. Favorite style of play? All right, let's go. That one, there's not a wrong or right, but I think you're right. And I've screwed up a lot too. Everybody has.
Right.
There's moments where, golly, what would life be like if I hadn't had to go through that, or I didn't do? Man, that's an interesting, rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
But the answer is, as hard as it is, and that's where I think it is cool to be on the other side of things. It's difficult when you're in that storm. You keep talking about storms. Difficult when you're in that storm to see any value that could come from something like that. But man, when you're through it, and you see the why, you see what you learned, you see how it made you who you are. So the answer is, I wouldn't change a thing. And I thought you articulated that, man, really well.
Well, I don't know about that, but I will say this. I just want to add this little caveat. I think too, is that one thing that I know is that I'm pretty damn resilient. And one thing that I know these kids need is resiliency. So throw that in there too. Throw that in there with these kids about being resilient, and talk to them about adversity and being able to know you're going to come out on the other side. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I think it's paramount with these kids.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. Based on our talk, I can't wait for the speed round because I want to hear your answers. I think this is going to be awesome.
I've heard all the questions.
Yeah,
now.
you know what's coming. So, but now this is your shot.
Okay. Yeah.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm not big into ice cream, but I'm big into milkshakes.
Okay.
So I would say, well, we go to Chick-fil-A like we eat at all the time. I'm good for a vanilla or a chocolate milkshake for sure. Yeah.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Steph, without question.
So there are a few new ones here that you haven't heard. So this is a new one. All right. Your favorite one-liner to tell players, that kind of that phrase that when they come back and see you years later, like, Coach, you used to always say this or that. What do you got?
Oh man. Is it specific to like the game, you think?
No.
Or just whatever?
Yeah.
We got to be tougher than that. I mean, that would be one. I would say shot ready.
Yeah.
And jump to the ball.
Yeah. Those are I love that. You got to be tougher than that. Yeah. Favorite gym that you've coached or played in?
Favorite gym? Oh, I got two. It would have to be the Pit in Albuquerque because I was part of a state championship there in high school. And then it would have to be the Alamo Dome.
Nice.
Yeah.
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 Texting or talking?
Texting until you have to talk, and then you need to talk.
Best basketball movie of all time?
I know Hoosiers is right there. And actually, we're getting ready. My sister and I are going to Hoosier Clinic.
Are you? Nice,
yeah.
man.
I went 2 years ago, and yeah, we're going out there.
That's been a bucket list item of mine.
You need to go. You haven't been?
Mm-mm.
You need to go.
Yeah.
Hey, just jump in with this, man. It'll be good. There's some really good speakers.
Oh, yeah.
Hoosiers, I like to fish at say Pittsburgh. I heard one of your coaches talk about what's the name of with Robbie Benson, one-on-one. It was what's his name from TCU.
Yeah.
Watched one, so I went back and watched it again. I'm like, why did I like that movie back then? But that was another one that was a basketball movie. But it's Hoosiers.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
100% shot clock.
Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
What book would you give someone?
I have it here. This one, Entitled to Nothing by Bob Walsh. This is like one that check it out. That's impacted me more during the season. That's applicable than any other book that I've read, basketball wise.
I love that phrase right there.
Yeah, Entitled to Nothing. You need to read it, Coach. It's a good one.
The Lubbock Christian coach, his whole thing to his players and to recruits is you're not that important.
Yeah. I played with Steve.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
In basketball, who is the GOAT?
MJ.
Last one. Name a bucket list item that you still need to do.
Bucket list item that I still need to do. I would love to go with my family, and both my boys play golf. My grandson plays golf. I think it would be a lot of fun to go to Scotland and spend a week playing some of the courses where they have the Open. Play
nice.
the course at St. Andrews. I've been able to accomplish a lot of what I've had on my bucket list. That would be one, Coach. And let me just throw one where I would love to be at a Game 7 NBA Finals and be sitting on the bench or be sitting at
right by. Yeah,
I would love that.
That's a good one. Yep.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Coach, almost an hour and a half. Didn't feel like that. It goes fast, right?
I love it, man. I was like really excited because I could just do this all day. I just love talking basketball, and you're so good at asking questions and then responding and throwing in whatever you got. I appreciate it again. It was great.
This was so much fun for me. I mean, a couple guys that we both know, and I did get to meet you and talk with you this summer. And a couple guys have just been talking you up a ton, and I really enjoyed our talk. And I do think, I think you're a coach that I would love to kind of see, myself becoming. In the future, just the way that you talk about your program and your passion for it. And so thank you so much for giving up your time.
Well, Coach, thank you. Appreciate what you do. Appreciate your book. I loved your book. I appreciate your courage to write the book and what you had in the book. So, man, we just keep needing people like you doing what you're doing. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate
Thanks, Coach.
it. Yeah, we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.